moving is one of the most stressful things in people's lives. And you take that on. And that's part of why real estate agents get paid what they do. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it and the things that we take on in order to get to the ultimate goal of the client. It's kind of like a plumber, going in and, a 5-minute job. And you're like, what do you mean it's $250? Oh, I could have done that. Well, how long would it have taken you to do that? Did you have the tools to do it? What you paid me was my 30 years of work and the knowledge to be able to do this in 5 minutes. And it didn't take me 5 minutes to learn that. That's what you're paying for. And it's the same thing with real estate agents. A really good real estate agent is worth their weight in gold.
Welcome to a private conversation with me, Steve Robbins. I'm sitting down with some of the biggest names in Indianapolis real estate. I've enjoyed these conversations immensely, and I hope you will too. A big thank you to Executive GM Ian Soroyan and his whole team for hosting us at Cunningham Restaurant Group's Commission Row and Mel Speakeasy, located in downtown Indianapolis within the Pacer Sports and Entertainment Complex. Check out the show notes to learn more. Hey guys, today I'm sitting down with Steve Rupp, longtime realtor and the owner of Steve Rupp Coaching. Before I get to Steve, I would like to ask you to do me a little favor. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like. If something hits you just right, please comment. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor and follow the show. Thanks so much. And now my conversation with Steve Rupp. Do you think more people recognize you at this point as a realtor or as a real estate coach?
That's a great question. That's been my biggest challenge is getting people to see me as a real estate coach versus an agent.
When you say people,
real estate agents in general,
Okay.
the real estate community, and that can mean lenders, title, inspector, all the people. And I think most people have seen my transition over into coaching from real estate sales. So, I'm still active with my database. I still interact with clients. I still call them. I still send a newsletter out. I'll still go on listing appointments with our listing specialist or make buyer appointments with buyer specialist just for a smooth handoff because I'm a big relationship person.
Yeah.
And so that to me has allowed me to keep my foot in the business, so to speak, but it's just a very small toe that's dipped in the pool. It's not the whole thing. So I very intentionally wanted to get away from the real estate sales and get into the coaching because I know my personality and I know how much I care about my clients, and I would keep getting pulled back into real estate sales if I didn't quote unquote burn the boats. So when I got in, I sold my business and transitioned it over to my business partner and his team. And I've gone full bore into coaching, speaking, training, that for the past year and a half.
Year and a half. How long have you been coaching? You were coaching some prior to that though, right? Or how long have you been doing the coaching?
Not so, informally coaching.
Okay. Gotcha.
I was coaching my team. I was coaching some other agents just informally.
I see.
Doing that, but not formally. So it's been a year and a half formally coaching.
And we rewind the clock all the way back to how you got into real estate. Your father was in real estate.
My dad, yeah.
So let's talk about kind of the history there.
Yep. So I grew up in the business. My dad got in the business the year that I was born.
Okay.
And I saw what he went through. I saw what we all go through.
And who was your dad?
Jack Rupp. And so my dad started with Tucker in 1972, and then he was there all the way through 1980, at which time he and a few partners got together and they started their own Century 21 firm. It's called Century 21 Leadership One. And he was the managing broker and one of the owners. They had a completely different concept for the time, and it was only experienced agents could come on into their company. He wouldn't even interview you or let you walk in the door unless you had a certain number of years of experience in production.
Okay.
And that was their model. and it wasn't right for everybody. But his whole thing was, I don't want agents coming in here needing someone to handhold them. I want to provide the back end support that they need in order to be successful. And these are all experienced agents. So they ended up building a fantastic business. It was the number one Century 21 office in the world for 11 out of 13 years. They were a big deal. And that was part of my experience in the industry, was watching my dad succeed and rise through the ranks, I guess, so to speak, and walk across the stage every single year at the national convention for Century 21. And then they changed brands for a little bit over to Prudential, and then now it's Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of Indiana. So my dad sold a long time ago. None of the original owners are still involved, but that was my dad's company. So my quick background was I got an entrepreneurial studies degree from Xavier, and then I did what every entrepreneur does, and I worked for a bank. And I figured I want to sleep with the devil before I worked with him. So figure out how the finance world worked, how money worked, how money moved and flowed. And then I did some marketing and advertising as well. And worked for some mostly smaller companies then. So I got some small company experience. The advertising marketing was all commission. So that's how I got my first taste of commission sales. And then at that point, that did not work out. I was wanting to go one direction. The company owner wanted to go a different direction. And so we parted ways, which was fine. And at that point, my dad was like, why don't you join me and take over the family business?
Had it been something you've been thinking about all along? You were actively, you didn't want to.
Did not want to get into real estate.
Okay,
I saw what my dad did and what he went through.
Right.
I saw what it meant to our family, and it was great. I mean, we had a nice lifestyle. Were we balling? No, we weren't balling, but we didn't want for anything. Yeah, and my sister and I both got through college with no debt, and I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. And
what did you see that you didn't want?
The hours,
yeah,
the emotional strain that it puts on you. I mean, that's the biggest, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest things that real estate agents who, like new agents or people wanting to come into the business, don't know and don't understand. All they see is, quote unquote, the money, because
right.
all they see is all these shows on HGTV, Selling Sunset. And I mean, you can go down the list. There's tons of them. And that's not real estate. You know that. There's so much more to it than just all the glitz and the glamour and the big paychecks. There's all the work that goes in behind the paychecks before you get, just like anything. You look at like Peyton Manning or Patrick Mahomes or any of the great athletes that are out there, and you're like, man, that must be great. You didn't see all the work that went in, the years and the years and the years of work and practice and getting up at 5 a.m. and working in the cold, and the money and the commitment that went in to get to that point. And in real estate is no different. People don't see from the outside what happens on the inside for real estate, I think. And they don't go in with eyes wide open. And that's why we have a 90% failure rate approximately in our business. Same with any new business that starts, about 90% failure rate. So that's why I didn't want to get in the business. I saw how, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I saw what it did to my dad and how hard it was, and just the emotional toll that it took. And I think that in real estate, you have to be a psychiatrist first before you can actually do your job. Some clients are pretty straightforward. A lot aren't. And let's face it, you are undertaking a ton of stress and emotion for these people. It's one of the top 5 stressors in life, behind death, divorce. It's public speaking. Moving is one of the most stressful things in people's lives. And you take that on. And that's part of why real estate agents get paid what they do. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it and the things that we take on in order to get to the ultimate goal of the client. It's kind of like a plumber, going in and, a 5-minute job. And you're like, what do you mean it's $250? Oh, I could have done that. Well, how long would it have taken you to do that? Did you have the tools to do it? What you paid me was my 30 years of work and the knowledge to be able to do this in 5 minutes. And it didn't take me 5 minutes to learn that. That's what you're paying for. And it's the same thing with real estate agents. A really good real estate agent is worth their weight in gold because they know what to do. They know how to anticipate challenges and issues, which all comes at an emotional cost to them and a cost to their family, if they have one. And it's one of those things where you're constantly balancing family and work. And there is no balance. Let's be very clear about that. There is no balance. You're just constantly going in and out of balance. The most important thing is telling the people that you care about when you're going out of balance and hopefully getting them back in there quickly and letting them know. Maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's a long weekend, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a nice dinner at a restaurant, or whatever the case is. But it takes a toll. And that's the hardest part about this business. The paperwork and the showing the houses, that's one part. And yes, that takes a toll too, but it's the emotional part, I think, is one of the most difficult.
So despite all that, you went into real estate.
Still went into real estate. Yeah.
Why?
My dad, well, he was like, he said, yeah, I think you'd be really good at it. Give it a shot. Give it a year. And if you don't like it, you can leave. Okay. So I tried it. And I said, I've got one caveat. You come in here, get your license, and if you stay if you want to continue, I need to get your broker's license. This is when we're a dual license state. And I said, well, why is that important? And he said, because I don't want you to be beholden to anybody. If you want to hang a shingle outside of your house that says Rupp Real Estate, I want you to be able to do that. Okay, makes sense. So I did. I was in it a year, and he was like, all right, you want to keep going? Yeah, sure. And got my broker's license, and the rest was history. So I ended up working with my dad for about 5 years, and we slowly transitioned him out of the business and transitioned me into the business. And the interesting thing was the most difficult part for me was, not having any business. I mean, it's the way it is with anyone starting in sales. You have nothing and you start from nothing. And so my biggest challenge was I saw this big database that my dad had after 25 years in the business. And I had a lot of friends. I grew up here, a lot of contacts, but they weren't buying or selling houses. At least they weren't on my radar for doing that.
All right.
So
how old were you about this time?
I was about 27.
Okay.
And so my thing was transitioning the database from a majority of his clients, i.e. 100%, to a majority of my clients, because I didn't know how long his clients were going to want to work with me, number one. Number two, I didn't know if once he, quote unquote, retires, they're going to go to their second best friend who's their age and, so forth. What I found was that over 5 years, the database transitioned from 100-0 to pretty much 60-40 me in there, which was kind of cool.
Very nice.
My dad, a lot of the benefit for him and for me, was that most of these people watched me grow up, literally. So they knew who I was. And that was important. And so it was easy for me to stay in touch with them and in contact with them. And it wasn't just starting from scratch with a relationship. It was someone that they've known for a long time. And they're like, well, the apple can't fall far from the tree. So if you're half as good as your dad was, then I'll trust you with my real estate business. And as you know, that's a real blessing because most agents don't get that.
Yeah.
And I realized that. So I had a real advantage when I came into the business. I didn't start from zero. I had a running start and I was halfway around the track before everyone else started. And 100% I recognized that. And that was a true blessing for me. And my dad, because he knew that his clients were going to be well cared for, because he trained me on how he wanted me to treat the business and treat his clients. And he he cared about them deeply because most of them were friends. And so he wanted to make sure that they were going to still receive the same level of care that he gave them. And honestly, I got really lucky because my dad had really long coattails, and everybody who knew my dad had nothing but kind things to say about him. It's like, Jack, he is an amazing real estate agent. He is an amazing person. He has the patience of a saint, and he does. And he cares about people, and you can tell. And that's what I put into my business, was the extreme caring for people, caring until it hurts. And I think that's really, really, really important in real estate.
It is. And just thinking about this whole story, and you kind of starting on second base, maybe in a way to put it, but how many of your clients today that you would still classify as your clients, what percentage of them were actually people that originated with your dad?
Maybe 10%.
Okay.
If that. I mean, we still have.
I mean, it's been a number of years, so
it has, and the reality of it is there's some of them that aren't with us anymore.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right.
My dad turns 90 next year.
Wow! Congratulations.
So, yeah, there's a lot of people that he's outlived. Let's just say, and so you have a natural shrinking of the database with that, as with anybody. But yeah, so it's 90% are people that relationships that I cultivated, let's just say.
So how did you go about building it from there?
It was all relationships. I mean, that's how I built my business, is relationships. I am a heavy networker. I've always been involved in a lot of stuff. So one of the things that I did when I first got out of college was join the JCs, and that was huge. I still am. Now, unfortunately, where the JCs has shrunk a lot in footprint, and there's not a chapter here in Indy. But when I was there, we had almost 400 people in it, and that was a big networking group. It was all people my age that were in it, under 40. There's a lot of them that were moving.
Mm-hmm.
It was a natural feeding ground for me, I guess you could say. I did it authentically. I didn't go in looking for business. Business just naturally happened. But I did it, and I put in the service. I ended up being president of JC's, president of the foundation. So I put in a lot of work, and I got a lot of relationships out of it too. Just like anything that real estate agents do. You get involved in something, you do it for the right reasons. You don't go in smelling like commission breath. You do it because you want to help, and the relationships naturally happen. People see why you're there, and they'll naturally be attracted to you. And that's really what happened. Then the other thing was my church. I grew up here, so St. Pius and Chittard. So I had a lot of people through there, plus neighborhood. Where I grew up, we had a lot of people. We farmed that neighborhood. And so there's a lot of people that came from there too. And then just natural referrals, repeat clients. It just kind of multiplied from there. You do a great job for somebody. You plant the seed of, hey, if I do a great job for you, would you be open to introducing me to one person that you care about that I could help with their real estate needs? Sure. Would you be okay if I checked in with you from time to time? Sure. And that's all you got to do. The funny thing is most agents don't do that. And so when you do that, you just organically build your business a lot faster.
Obviously today you're focusing on coaching, and I want to mainly talk about coaching with you today, but when did the idea come to mind? You've had for years and years, decades, a successful real estate business. When did the idea to transition away from selling and into coaching really take hold, and why?
That's a great question, and it has a funny story associated with it. So it came down to, I had been in the business for about 25 years, and I had built a team. So my dad had always been just him, and then he had added me, and he had a small business. It wasn't anything. His main, I guess, claim to fame, so to speak, was running a massive company. But his real estate sales was never massive. He was never going to make the top 100 list or 200 list or whatever. It just wasn't his thing. I wanted to grow the business. And so when I took over, that's when I started a team. And that's when we started to grow and expand the business. And we did that. We were a top, I think, 0.5% of the agents in the city for years. And it took a toll. I think if you do this business long enough, it's gonna take a toll on you. And a good image of this is that I saw an image a couple of years ago where it looked like there was an old time coach. It was a silhouette of a long time coach, had the trench coat on, had the hat on, and you can see him standing there. And he was standing right across from a player, and it was a football player. And the interesting thing was that there was absolutely no caption whatsoever. None was needed. The coach had a bunch of holes in his silhouette. The player had one hole. And you could see a piece of the coach in the middle kind of flying over into the player to fill his hole.
I've seen that.
That's what a coach does.
Yes.
That's what a good mentor does. I think it's so powerful. And because a lot of those times that player can be anybody. It could be a real estate agent, it could be whatever. But let's say it's a real estate agent. There's holes that we have that need to be filled. And if you don't get those filled quickly the right way, you get burned out. And I was in burnout mode, and it was to the point where I just really needed something different. And my whole family is teachers, and so I actually talked to my wife, and we were laying in bed one night. It was it was 2 years ago today, and I rolled over and I said, I think I'm done. And she kind of looked at me. She was like, done with what? And I said, I'm sorry. I think I'm done with real estate. She goes, you are? I'm like, yeah. And I said, you know what? I think I need to do something different. And she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. What do you think I should do? And she said, well, you're really good at teaching, and you're really good at coaching people, coaching agents. Why don't you do that? And so I thought about it for a while, and I was like, you know what? I do like that, and I am good at it, and I have a passion for it. And so that's when I decided to, I did a little bit of research. I talked to some agents who had transitioned over into the coaching space, and felt that this was the right transition for me to make. It was the right time. My team, they all had different places that they wanted to be too. So it was a perfect timing. They all did their thing. I was able to go do my thing. My clients are taken care of by my business partner, who is doing a great job with them and allows me to focus solely on coaching. And that's when I started Steve Rupp Coaching. And that's, the only thing that I'm focused on is coaching, training, and speaking.
That moment in bed where you said, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Was there something specific that led to that moment? Was there an event?
No event. It was probably 2 years in the making of just having that feeling of there's got to be something more. There's got to be something different. And I didn't know what it was. And it just kept building and building and building, kind of like a tea kettle. And then all of a sudden, the steam comes out. And at that moment, that was the steam being released. And it's like, I need to do something different. And I didn't really know exactly. I think I had an idea of what I wanted to do. But then, the people that care about you most know you better than you know yourself. And they have your best interest at heart. And that's why it was important that my wife was able to kind of step back and look at it and say, listen, you're really good at this. you should strongly think about it. And again, I had been thinking about this for a while. It was just something else that just exacerbated that more, I guess. And that's when it just allowed me to really wrap my arms around it and say, you know what, you're right. I do think that this would be a good next step for me in my career. I've been doing it for 25 years and very educationally based. And it was something where I feel like I've got a lot to give back. I've got a lot from this industry. There's a lot that I've gotten from this industry, and it was time for me to give back and help some other agents be successful. If I can help a few agents avoid the 90% fallout rate, then I've done my job, and I'm happy and grateful. And if I can do it in a way that fills my bucket as well, I always tell people, like in real estate, you get paid 3 ways. You get paid, 1, the obvious way, when you get a paycheck at closing. You get paid, number 2, when someone sends you a referral. And you get paid the 3rd way when you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did a good job and I did this the right way. I did this in honorable and an ethical way, and I represented my clients as zealously as possible. And your kids can see that too, because you're a role model for them to see it, whether you know it or not, whether you're trying to be or not. You are the person that they're looking up to. And if you can't say that about how you do business, how you run your life, they're going to see that, and that is going to impact them. So for me, and this is something that I would tell all of my clients, I get paid 3 ways. And the last way is the one that most people don't really think about. And I think it's the most important because it's who you are.
That's great. Where do you think agents make the most common mistakes in not getting into falling into the 90% and not getting to the 10%? You've seen it time and time again.
I'd say number 1 starts at the very beginning and having unrealistic expectations. That's number 1. Number 2, not understanding how much of a grind it is.
Yeah.
When people talk to me, and you've had agents come up to you, or people thinking about becoming agents, and hey, would you mind? Could I pick your brain? Could we sit down for coffee? I'm thinking about getting into real estate, whatever. You've had tons of those conversations. I've had lots of those conversations. And one of the first things I ask them is, why are you thinking about real estate? What's important about real estate? And if they tell me one of 2 answers, I'll tell them flat out, I don't think this is the right path for you. I am happy to help you find the right path, because I believe everybody.
I know one of them's flexibility.
Yep.
Because that is the immediate red light for me.
Yep. It's flexible. I want freedom of my schedule.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a blessing and a curse. I'll get back to that in a second. And then the other is, I want to make lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what do you define as lots of money? Before you answer that, can I tell you that the average real estate agent last year made $54,000, grossed $54,000. And then you take out all the expenses and splits and whatever. They're barely getting by. And that's why most real estate agents have a significant other who works, who provides the stable job, whether they need it or not.
And that's the average agent, including all the agents that have been in the business for however long.
Yeah.
Not just the newbies.
Yeah. About 54, 55. So anyway, you have this unrealistic expectation, and they think it looks easy.
Yeah.
They think it's easy. Oh, I get to run my own schedule. You're right, you do. Mm-hmm. You do get to run your own schedule. And the thing is that if you don't do it right, you're going to fall into the 90%. Because here's the reality of it. Every real estate agent starts off as the chief cook and bottle washer in their business. Every business owner starts off as the chief cook and bottle washer in their business. Bill Gates started off in his garage, chief cook and bottle washer, until you hire someone to be the bottle washer. And then you're just the chief and the cook. Until you hire someone to be the cook, now you're just the chief. Until you hire someone to be the chief, and now you're just overseeing. And there's a model for that. The thing that I think most real estate agents don't realize is that all they see is all the fancy stuff and the nice cars and whatever. Most real estate agents don't drive those nice cars, by the way, because they don't make enough money to do that. Or if they do, it's from a significant other. But they don't understand that they are serving basically two masters, two roles. They are an employee role and an employer role. Yep. And they don't understand that because there is a completely different mindset from a W-2 employee and a 1099 employee. Totally different mindset. My wife is a W-2 employee. She has a completely different mindset than I do as a 1099. Totally different mindset. As a real estate agent going into business for yourself, which is, I don't care if you affiliate with a company or you start off, whatever, you are both. You are both a business owner and employee. And what I coach new agents or potential new agents to think is, did employee you today do enough to make boss you happy enough to hire you back tomorrow? And if the answer to that is no, then you better watch out, because you can have a bad day. You might even be able to have a bad week. You might be able to have a bad month, but you can't have several bad months in a row.
Right.
At some point, you've got to get employee you working for boss you, owner you, just as hard as you would if you were working for a W-2 employer type relationship. And I feel that's where the biggest pitfall is for most people. They don't look at themselves as the employee, which they are, and they should be paying themselves a paycheck too, by the way, but they are not looking at themselves as the employee doing the work that needs to be done, because all they're looking at is boss. Oh, I don't have anybody tell me when to get to work. You're right. You don't. And you still need to be getting up at 6:37 in the morning, whatever, get your routine going, doing your self-care, doing your workout, whatever, so that you can get in and be working by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And you're probably going to be going until 6, 7 o'clock at night, if not later. And by the way, that might be 7 days a week. So you better take care of yourself. That's the biggest issue I see with people. And kind of what we're talking about is, a lot of real estate agents don't take care of themselves the way that they should. And this was one of the things that my dad told me at the very beginning. He said, you need to take care of yourself first, because if you can't take care of yourself, you sure as heck can't take care of your clients. It's kind of the whole, you're on a plane and the oxygen mask comes down and they say, put the mask on yourself first before you put it on a child. Why? Because if you're passed out, you can't help your kid. Same thing with real estate. If you are so burned out, you can't be a good real estate agent for your clients. And I feel that that's one of the biggest things that agents don't do is they don't take care of themselves. They wear their work ethic as a badge of honor. And in my opinion, this is kind of going on a bit of a soapbox, is I feel that our industry has done this to ourselves and allowed consumers to treat us as commodities and not respect our time. We are just as important as other white-collar professionals. Lawyers aren't on call all the time. CPAs aren't on call all the time. Heck, doctors aren't on call all the time. They have time off. They have partners that cover the on-call schedule. Firefighters aren't on call. Police officers aren't on call all the time. All these people take time off. Why? Because they know they need it. So why is it the real estate agents think they're so important that we have to be on call 24/7, 365. By the way, as my wife loves to remind me, we're not that important in the grand scheme of things. We're not a doctor. We're not a police officer, a firefighter, military, whatever. It's not that important. It's important, but we're not that important. Not life or death in most situations. And so, one of the things that I coach my clients is, show me your calendar. I want to see vacations on your calendar first. Put those on there before you put anything else. As you know, we're finishing up business planning and so forth right now. And so one of the things I look at is, where are you going to take care of yourself and your family? Because if that's not on there, nothing else matters. And it won't make it on there because you're always going to have one more call to make, one more appointment to go on, one more closing, one more listing, whatever. If you don't intentionally set aside the time and time block, it's not going to work. And guess what's going to happen next? You're going to lose your family. You're going to get divorced. You're going to lose your kids. The story that I tell a lot is one where about 15 years ago, my office was out of my house at the time, and I was working in a spare bedroom upstairs. It was about 8 o'clock at night. It was in October, so it was dark outside. I had the lights on, and I was sitting there marketing a new listing. And my daughter, Anna, I remember she's wearing this blue sparkly dress, and she peered around the corner of my doorway, and she said, "Daddy, when am I going to see you again?" That just killed me. It still kills me. It makes me tear up just thinking about that today. And I was like, I'm losing my family.
How long ago was this?
About 15 years ago. She's about 8.
Yeah.
So maybe 12 years ago. But it was one of those things where, reality just slaps you in the face and you're like, what are you doing? That listing can wait. Your kids can't. And they're not going to be there forever. And they're not. I mean, I see her, a few weeks a year because she's gone, in college and internships and whatever. And she's living her life. And I mean, that you have a 23-year-old that's, once they're gone, and you're going to see them, but it's not the same. And that it hurts my heart when real estate agents prioritize business over family all the time. Sometimes you've got to do that, make sacrifices, but there's got to be boundaries. And here's the deal. When I would go on listing appointments and buyer consultations, I would tell my clients, I work extremely hard for you. I will bust my butt for you. But there are times that I work and there's times that I don't work. And let me explain to you how that works. I work Monday through Friday from 8 until 7. Saturdays are by appointment only, and Sundays are my faith and my family days. They're off limits. I don't work Sundays. Only in extreme emergency will I do that. Didn't happen often, but every once in a while something happens, offer whatever. And I do take 5 weeks of vacation a year. And I do have coverage for that. You know how many clients I lost in 25 years when I would tell people and set my boundaries?
I'm going to guess 0.
0. None. In fact, Steve, I actually had more people who told me, you're the first agent that I've ever talked to who's told me what their boundaries are and what their work hours are, and I respect you more for it. I had a better relationship with my clients because of it, because they didn't treat me as a commodity. They didn't treat me as everyone else because I didn't allow them to do that. And that's part of why agents fail, is that when they come and I ask, what is your unique service proposition, USP? What is your competitive advantage? And they say, well, I'm available all the time, until you're not.
You're talking about setting expectations, and that's where even extremely talented real estate professionals fail at times.
Mm-hmm.
In coaching, I'm sure how to properly set expectations is something you talk about at great length.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me your thoughts and feelings behind setting expectations with realtors.
It can be like herding cats.
Most definitely.
because you're swimming upstream.
Yes.
Because real estate agents and consumers have created an always on industry.
Yeah.
Even though it's not needed. And they've used this as their competitive advantage. And
not even just with their own time, but setting expectations for the process.
Absolutely.
Tell me about it.
Everything goes so fast. We can submit this offer and we'll have a response within 4 hours. You don't need that.
Right.
99.99% of the time, that's just not necessary. And so setting expectations is really, really, really important in the business. It's important to your clients to do that. And, moreover, as an industry, I think we need to do better at that. And I am on a mission to do that, to have real estate agents take back their time. The problem is that we're fighting an uphill battle because our economy is instant gratification. I mean, look at Amazon, for example. It was built around that. Hey, you order it within the next hour and 21 minutes, and you can have it by 7 o'clock tonight. Do you really need that thing by 7 o'clock tonight? No, but you got that dopamine hit and you want to get it. And that's part of the problem. And so society is wanting this. I want it now. I don't want to wait. And waiting didn't used to be a bad thing. Now everybody wants everything immediately, and real estate is no different. I would argue, however, that it's not necessary. And I would also argue that consumers, if you lead them, will let you dictate how you work and when you work and how the process works. I had 3 core principles for my business, and they were guide, lead, and protect. And that's how I saw my business. That's how I saw us running our business. That's what I drilled into my team. Was our job is to guide, lead, and protect our clients to the highest level possible. And I would tell our clients that. It was written in our listing presentation or buyer presentation. Our commitment to you is to guide, lead, and protect you through this process. See, I feel that consumers are yearning, they're begging to be led. They want real estate agents to lead them. The real estate agents need to take responsibility and ownership for that, and so many of them are not. They're letting the consumers lead them, and that's where the expectation setting falls apart. The agents need to take on the responsibility and have the confidence to set those expectations, knowing that their clients aren't going to leave them. They'll probably be more endeared to them, I would argue. And if they aren't, I would also argue they're probably not a good fit for them.
So is that how you coach agents when dealing with difficult clients? And that, how do you coach them when dealing with difficult clients? What you just said, I think, falls into that category. But
setting expectations, it depends on what the difficult client is. What is the issue? What is the difficulty? There's a lot of different ways to handle different situations. But generally speaking, it comes back to recentering on what their goal and objective is. Steve, you told me you wanted to get out to Denver by January 31st so that you could start your job and provide a better life for your family. Is that still true? Yes. Fantastic. Do you still believe that I'm the right real estate agent for you? Yes. Great. Well, here's what our next best step is. You need to trust me. You've hired me to do a job for you. I'm doing that job. You need to trust me. I've done this a few times. And usually when you kind of recenter that.
Would you actually say you need to trust me?
I do.
Okay.
That's at the very beginning of my conversation with clients. This is a two-way street. I'm going to trust you that you're going to fulfill your end of the bargain, and I need you to trust me that I'm going to do the same. And they do need trust. It's built on trust and partnership. It's not just, hey, Mr. Real Estate Agent, Mrs. Real Estate Agent, I'm going to throw everything on your shoulders, because it is a partnership built on trust where the consumer has to do some things too, because you don't own the property unless you're selling your own property. You don't own the property. You legally can't even sell the property. That's why I tell real estate agents don't sell anything. They sell themselves. Exactly. But we don't sell a product. It's the consumer's product that we sell for them. But they're the ones that have to sign the deed. We can't do that. So, and same thing with a buyer. We can't buy a house for them. We guide, lead, and protect them through the buying process. We guide, lead, and protect the sellers through the listing process. We market their property. That's what we do. We don't
I
sell
always
it.
talk about that we sell trust.
We do sell trust.
Where do you speak to that?
If you don't have trust, it's not a good relationship. And I would argue, if you don't have trust in a relationship, you should respectfully turn down the client and the potential transaction. because it's going to go nowhere fast. I would also argue, kind of based on what you're talking about with the expectations, my expectation is that I'm going to be building a certain amount of trust by the time I leave that listing appointment. And I expect them to do the same. And I give, I've got lots of scripts that I use. But, one of the things that I love doing is diffusing the expectations and stress that consumers put on themselves, and they project it onto us as real estate agents. And that is that they think that they're in the driver's seat the whole time. Oh, I'm interviewing you to sell my house. And by the way, I've got 2 other people that I'm interviewing, just so you know. So give me your best deal. I don't know if we're going to be a good fit. If that's how you're looking at this, is only on price. It's because there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm not selling a pen. So what I would tell people based on your trust thing is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you have 5 options as far as I'm concerned. And they don't all involve me. Only one of them does. And that's only if we have enough trust that we agree to work together. The first one is you can choose to do absolutely nothing. No one's forcing you to sell your house. There are some situations where the house must be sold. But generally speaking, they're not being forced to sell their house. There's always some options. You can choose to try to do it yourself. You can choose to hire a limited services company. You can choose to hire a real estate salesperson, or you can choose to hire me as a real estate consultant. Those are my 5 options. Any one of them is good. And if you feel that I'm not the right fit for you, that is totally cool. I will be happy to introduce you to another agent that I feel would be a good fit for you, if that's what you want. But at the end of our time together, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's going to be one thing that I'm going to ask you, and that is, do you feel I'm the right fit for you to accomplish the goals that you have? On the other side, I'm going to tell you if I feel you're a good fit for my business. And by the way, I don't take everybody that I sit in front of. It's got to be a 2-way street with trust.
Confidence. That's what it takes to deliver that type of
Absolutely.
Message for the agents that you might be coaching that don't have that level of confidence. What are you doing to help them get there?
I'm going to say something that I absolutely hate, and that is that you got to fake it till you make it.
I've had someone sitting in that chair saying they also agree that they hate fake it till they make it, and they actually couldn't get past why it might make sense in some situations. And I get both sides of it.
And I hate it because I hate faking things. On the other hand, we've all had to fake confidence until we've earned it. Right? If there is anything that anyone has done for the very first time, you would be lying if you told me that you felt 100% confident in the outcomes that you're going to derive as a result of doing it for the first time. It's impossible for you to tell me that because you don't know. You've never done it before. That's part of the excitement of it. But you have to fake it. You have to convince yourself and hype yourself up. And we all know there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. A lot of your athletes, they'll listen to music they'll hype them up. They've got the Superman pose that a lot of people use before they do stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. You can do self-talk. You can do affirmations. There's all kinds of stuff you can do to hype yourself up. But let's be really clear. The very first listing appointment and listing that you go on and that you get, you did not earn because of your track record. You don't have a track record. You don't deserve that. Why? And I tell new agents all the time, I'm like, let me put this another way. What if I were going up against you were going up against me for a listing? There is not a chance in heck that you should get that listing over me or put any agent with 25 years of experience in that area. You don't deserve that listing. You haven't earned it. I have probably, but you haven't. But yet there's still some people that will choose to go with you. And there's only one reason why they will do that. And that's the R word, relationship. You have a better relationship with them than I do. And that could be because you're related, you're best friends, you grew up, whatever the case is, you had a relationship. And at the end of the day, that's what real estate is based on, is relationships. If you have a better relationship as an agent than someone else with 5 times your experience, you still stand a greater chance of getting that listing than the veteran who deserves it. And that's why you have to fake it until you make it. You've got to fake that confidence until you've earned it. And then you have a track record to back it up. But everybody starts at ground zero. And so you've got to find a way to get the confidence to go on that first listing appointment that you are scared out of your mind to go to, because you're like, what are they going to do? What are they going to say? What objections are they going to have? All this stuff. And then you get it. You're like, wow, that was cool. I want to do that again. And then slowly you start building up your confidence and you build up your resume. I've helped 10 families buy, sell, and build this year. Now you've got the resume. Now you've got more confidence because now you know what to do. You've encountered some objections and some resistance and some turbulence, whatever you want to call it, and you found ways to get through it. Now you've earned it. That's why I would say, as much as I hate that phrase, it's true, and there is no way around it. You have to fake it until you have the confidence and the experience and the track record to have earned it.
We talked about new agents and how they can escape the black hole that is often their career gets sucked into.
Mm-hmm.
How about the agents that have successfully gone from hobby into the beginning of a career, but trying to take it to the next level? They're getting by. They might be making the 50 grand before even their expenses.
Mm-hmm.
But now to make it a successful career, almost everybody gets into real estate, and if they want it to be a career, probably the first thing they say is they want to make six figures.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So to go from that 50,000 or whatever that number is that, they've escaped the event horizon of that black hole, what typically is needed to be done, in your opinion, and as you're coaching them, to go from the average to successful?
One word: leverage.
Okay.
And you can add a second word to that based on that, because you have to have this in order to get leverage: is systems and models. You're going to go from, everyone starts off as entrepreneurial, and you're basically just muscling your way through it. Everybody does this. And there's only so much that you can muscle through. So many transactions you can handle on your own before you're going to hit that ceiling. And there's going to be multiple ceilings that you're going to hit in your career. Every career, not just real estate. Every career, you're going to hit a ceiling. And it gets uncomfortable. And we all know that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And so to get to that next phase, get out of that black hole, as you described, there's so many agents that hit that ceiling and never break through because they don't get out of their comfort zone. They don't do the things that they know they need to do, but they don't want to do. And again, that comes back to the employee-employer mentality. I don't want to do this. I don't want to get out of bed at 6 a.m. to be able to get to the office at 8, but if I don't, I'm going to get fired. You don't have that in a 1099 sole proprietor, young business owner business. And so part of that is, getting through that ceiling, breaking through that, getting uncomfortable, doing things that you don't want to do, but yet you need to do them in order to get through that. And that's what breaks you out through that ceiling, so that you get to the next one and you start working your way out. At some point, you're going to have to get leverage. And by that, I mean people. You should have systems that you are developing as you are getting closer to that ceiling to get you to efficiencies. And that will allow you to take on more capacity until you need to hire that leverage. That first leverage should be an admin support role. Your first two should be admin support roles before you hire a salesperson. Because when you do that, now you start taking a lot of your gross profit off your balance sheet because you're giving it to someone else. And that's not a bad thing. It's just you got to make sure that you're ready to do that before you can hire that person. You've got to get your systems, your house in order before you can hire someone else to follow your systems that hopefully you've put in place so that they can see and experience the same success that you had. So you've got to get out of that comfort zone. That's the number one most important thing. And if you are unwilling to do that, you will never get out of that black hole. And it's just going to keep pulling you back down.
And what about that next level, do you think? What do you have to add on to that to go from successful to maybe not elite, but star?
People, leverage. It's all leverage. At that point, it's all leverage. And adding more systems. Systems and leverage. Systems and leverage. Those are always the answer. If you want to grow, systems and leverage. You don't need to overcomplicate it. It's not that easy.
No.
It's simple, but it's not easy. And there's a big difference. And the best agents, the ones with the big teams, understand this, and they have the best systems. And that's what I coach my coaching clients on. If they're struggling, if they're having challenges, we look at the business, and then we start implementing systems in the business to create predictability. And that's the biggest thing that agents miss, is lack of predictability in their business. I need to know that I can generate this many closings in order to pay my bills. So, what is your absolute minimum amount that you need to make in order to pay your bills? What's your survival number? And most agents don't know that. They haven't taken the time to do a budget, run a profit and loss statement. Here's a question. If you're running a business, how many businesses out there do you know that are successful that don't have a profit and loss statement? None. They won't last for long. How many real estate agents do you know that don't have a profit and loss statement? Most of them.
True.
There's the difference. I would argue the ones that are in the 10% that are really successful, they probably know their numbers.
Yes.
Why? Because they're running their business like a business. They have systems. They have models. They have predictability that they can fall back on because they have the systems and models in place in order to do what they need to do in order to get to the level that they need to get to. That's the important thing. And they're doing the things that they need to do, and that's prospecting. Anyone in sales, I don't care what you sell. You can sell pens, houses, boats, cars, whatever. Your job is a prospector. You've got to prospect for business because you can't sell someone something if you don't have someone to sell something to. You got to get them in your pipeline. So you got to make the calls. You got to go to the events where people are at. You got to be vulnerable. You can't be, you can't be a secret agent. Being a secret agent is a kiss of death. Let everyone know what you do and how they can introduce you and why they would want to introduce you. What's your competitive advantage? We talked about that earlier. And it's not, I'm on call all the time. What are you going to do differently? And that's really important. For me, people say, well, what was your competitive advantage? What was your USP when you're in real estate? And mine was, I had a couple of them. The number one is that I'm the most educated real estate agent in the world. I have got 18 designation certifications. Nobody has more than I do to my knowledge. And if they do, I've got to be in the top 0.001% or whatever. I know what I'm doing. So that's one thing. The other thing was that I knew my numbers. And I could tell you as a seller, Mr. Seller, I know statistically speaking that my listings sell 10% faster and for 7.91% more than the average agent sells their house. Would you like 7.91% more than the average agent could get you? And by the way, for a $400,000 house, that's about $38,000. Is that something that's important to you? Well, yeah. Great. I've got a system that can make that happen. And this is why I have people to help me with that. And so that's an outcome. That's my USP. People couldn't say that. There's not another agent out there that can say that. And so the agents need to find what their USP is. That's not, I'm available to you all the time. Come up with something else. Figure out something else. Borrow it from somebody until you can come up with your own. If you need to fake, if you're in the fake it till you make it stage. And then now you can own a USP of your own. And a lot of times offices will say, well, use our numbers. Great, use their numbers until you can have numbers of your own. And hopefully they're better than your office as an average. And then you can promote those and sell those as a USP.
What does the average agent need to do better with prospecting than what they're typically doing? Prospecting is the lifeblood of the business. It's also the place where most agents usually fail.
Yes.
They aren't getting the word out. They are making the calls. They are meeting the people. They are building the relationships. For those people that aren't doing that at the level they should be, what's your usual first piece of advice?
Well, the first thing is to recognize that you're not doing it.
Yes.
Every every social media thread that I see, no matter where we talked about this before we went on camera, every social media thread out there, I don't care what the topic starts out at, it always ends up with, where are you getting your leads from? What are you seeing as the best lead? And they're all wanting to pay for these leads. But that's putting your eggs in someone else's basket. They control that. And you're paying good money for that. Instead, why don't you focus on your own book of business, your own sphere of influence, your own database, your own friends, network, whatever. And then you control the narrative. You control the lead flow. You control the business. You're not relying on someone else to provide it for you and to feed you. And so, to your point, I would say that if you're not prospecting, you're going to have, one of two things is going to happen. You're either A, going to rely on someone else to do it for you, and you're going to pay money for that. And if you're willing to do that, that's fine, whatever. Or you're going to get out of the business. My suggestion would be do prospecting, things that you enjoy doing. Maybe it is that you're really active in your daughter's soccer team. And so you're the team parent. Maybe you sponsor their uniforms. Maybe you do the parties. Maybe you find ways to get in front of the parents and let them know what you do and how you do it. It doesn't have to be constantly in their face all the time. It could be subtle, but they know what you do. All the activities that I've been involved, everyone knew that I was in real estate. And I got business out of that. Now, I didn't go in, saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent, you need to use me, I'm honest dad, whatever. But they naturally found out because of conversations, and I was involved, and they saw that I was involved. They wanted, so I would highly, highly, highly encourage every agent, find ways to get involved in your community. Find ways to get involved with organizations that you believe in. That might be, if you have kids, it might be with your kids. It might be hobbies that you enjoy, or sports, or whatever the case is. But do something, and then constantly be in front of your database. Because if you're not, somebody else is. And here's the thing. The people in your database are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. And here's the main thing that agents say. This is almost every single time. Well, Steve, I know you're telling me I need to call 10 people a day, but what do I say? I don't want to sound salesy. Right. Sound familiar? Everybody says that. Okay, great. Well, why don't you come up with some topics to talk about? Or why don't you have a topic to talk about? Here's an idea. One of the things that I did was I hosted a monthly happy hour every single month for my clients. I had a natural way for me to get in touch with my clients and to call them. I had a reason to call. Hey, Steve, I haven't seen our happy hour lately. I really miss you. Is there something that I could do to get you to come to the next one? I would love to see you and catch up. That's an easy call to make. Nobody's going to say, Steve, you suck. You're a horrible person. You just invited me to an event. Nobody's going to say that. People love to be thought of. And so you're like, why don't you come to an event? I'm going to pick up the tab. I want to introduce you to people and get you know you to people in your own community. And I want to be the one to do that. I want you to have a great time. This isn't about me. This is about you. I got a lot of people to come to those events. And I had a reason to call people every single month. And that's just one thing. And there's so many different things that you could do with that. But to your point, you've got to be in front of your clients. You have to carve out time in your calendar to make your phone calls, to do your DMs, your texts. I don't care what it is, be it chamber events, be it something. You should be in front of people in one way, shape, or form for a minimum of 2 hours a day. And if you're not doing your job as a prospector, and boss you is going to fire employee you because you're not doing your job. And you can't do what you love because you don't have enough people in your pipeline to do to the listings and the buyers and the new construction and the investments or whatever it is that is actually working in your business. You've got to really be working on your business too. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They just wing it. And I think you had said earlier, do it on a wing and a prayer. And that's not untrue with a lot of people, a lot of agents. At the end of the day, my advice that I give to my coaching clients is you need to be in front of at least 10 people a day. You determine what that is, what resonates with you. Are you good at texts? Are you good at video messages? Are you good on social media? Are you good on the phone? Are you good with events? I don't care what it is. Just do something. Pick something. And your goal is to get in front of 10 people and have some conversation about real estate with those 10 people. I don't care. It doesn't have to be super long. It doesn't have to be super involved. Just something that they know that you're in real estate. That's all. And then take a concerted effort in them. You should be working off of your database. So you can go back and say, hey, I remember Johnny was going to the finals for his soccer last month when we talked. How did he do? Oh, well, thanks for asking. He actually won. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, could you send me a picture of him and his teammates with their trophy? Yeah, I'll send it over right now. Well, who's going to be their best friend? Who's the person that they're thinking about? Well, he really cares about me. It's not just about getting a sale, because we all know that people sell houses. The number keeps going up. What, about every 10 to 12 years now? It used to be 7 to 8. Now it's 10 to 12. So most of these conversations, they don't need your services. But they know people who do. The average person, according to NAR, knows 5 people who are going to be moving in each year. So you want to be able to help at least one of those 5 people. So you don't need a massive database in order to have a massive business. You can have a massively successful business off of 300 people in your database if you mine your database correctly. And that's why I call a database a data bank, because it is your data bank. And it should be used as such if you mine it properly and consistently.
So you've really been full-time in coaching for 1.5 years now here. Where do you want it to go?
That's a great question. My goal is to be able to be consistently helping 10 people, 10 one-on-one coaching clients. I've got a program called Premier Connect, which does exactly what I've been talking about. It's something that I did in my own business because I had a need. And it focuses on helping agents leverage their vendor partner relationships into a predictable stream of income while providing a magical level of service to their clients, as well as making their vendor partners feel like partners, not commodities. It's a win-win for everybody. And so I want to be able to help more people with that. My goal is to be able to help 100,000 agents experience Premier Connect and take their business up to the next level and do it in an authentic way without paying for leads, without cold calling, because nobody likes doing most of this, unless you're weird, and then some people like cold calling, but I've never quite understood that. So that's that. And then lastly, my goal is to have six speaking events a year, because I love getting on stages and sharing with people. And my greatest joy in life is being on a stage and talking, and then starting to see the light bulb go off in people's eyes. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I need to do that for my business, and then actually do it. Because I've been there so many times and I've had that light bulb go off, and I hope the speaker can see that, because that's why they do what they do. That's why I do what I do. I love real estate. I love real estate agents because I am one, and I have been one. I will always be a real estate agent. And it pains me more than anything to see so many real estate agents fail or fall short of what their true potential is. And real estate agents, just like everybody, everyone has a superpower. I mentioned this before. Real estate is not it for a lot of them, but it is it for some of them. And for the ones that real estate is a superpower, I want to magnify that so they can have the biggest and best impact to the most number of people possible, and doing it in the most authentic and ethical way possible. Because there's a lot of bad apples in our industry, just like every industry out there. But I would argue that there's a lot more good apples than bad apples. People do this industry for, they do it because I want to have more control over my time. We talked about that. I want to make more money for my family, provide a better life. We talked about that. But I generally think that real estate agents like to help people. That's why teachers make the best real estate agents. They love to teach. And that's what we do. We teach. We guide, lead, and protect them through the process. And so being able to do that in an authentic way is really important. Real estate agents, as an industry, we give back to our communities more hours of service than any other industry out there. And it's not even close. Real estate agents are good people. I don't care how some of the lawyers try to vilify us. That's not who we are. Yeah, there's some bad apples. There's bad apple lawyers and accountants and doctors and police and whatever. No one has 100% good Apple rate for their industry. Nobody does. But generally speaking, I think real estate agents are good people. We do this for the right reason. We have to, for the amount that we put into this and the amount of emotional fortitude we have to have. You got to be loving what you do and the people that you're helping. And I believe more than anything that real estate agents are good people that do it for the right reasons, and they truly want to help people with one of the most stressful times in their lives. Those are the people I want to help. Those are the people I want to impact. And that's why I believe that I've been put in this position. This is why I feel like I followed my calling to do this. I believe this is where I'm meant to be. And I want to help as many people as possible, help get them from where they are to where they want to go.
What do you think your greatest strengths are as a person, but, in whether it's coaching, being a realtor, just in general?
Patience is one of my biggest ones. I got that from my dad. I'm a really good listener, and I have a really cool ability to be able to take complex subjects and information and distill it down into digestible, simple concepts. And I think, there's a lot of stuff in real estate, well, in this world in general, where you have a lot of complex information out there. Yeah. And that's another thing, is taking that information, because our role as real estate agents has changed. I would say doctors, lawyers has changed as well. And here's where I mean with this. I'm going to link this together. But our role used to be as gatekeepers of information. We had all the listings. We had all the listing data. You wanted to come in, you had to come in, and we would give you an MLS book that was as thick as a telephone book, and you had to look through these black and white pictures. You remember that. I remember being there with my dad and seeing the MLS books, and he had the whole library in the office of MLS books, and they would come in every month or every 2 weeks or whatever it was. But that's not true anymore. The information's out there. You can go on WebMD and get all the medical information you want. Now, it might tell you that you're going to die when you just have a cold, but that's the big difference. Is our job as real estate agents is to take all this information and distill it down to the specific type of information for the specific client with whom we're working, and make it work for them. So we are going from the gatekeepers of the information to the interpreters of the information. And I think that's really important. And that's something that I'm really good at. I'm also really good at building systems. And that's something that my whole business was built on. And that's why I love what I do, because most real estate agents are not good with systems. They don't have systems. They don't have predictability. I'm really good at that. And that's one of the things that I do with my coaching clients, is I help them build systems and models in their business to create predictability. And that's a blessing for them, and therefore it becomes a blessing for me.
And maybe being a little vulnerable. What about weaknesses?
I care a lot about what people think about me. I don't have thick skin, and that's tough when you're in a sales role. I take things personally a lot, and it's just who I am. And I've learned I'm not going to change that.
That can also be that cuts both ways.
It is, and I've learned to use the positive side of it, because if you just focus on the negative side of that, it can kill you, literally. But caring so much about somebody and their success is important. And especially if you're a coach, if you're a teacher, if you're a mentor, you need that. If you don't have that, you shouldn't be in that role, because you've got to care and believe in that person more than they believe in themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
When you and I had lunch not too long ago, and we talked about DISC profiles, and you said you were a high S, steadiness.
Mm-hmm.
So many realtors are high I's with a lot of D in there.
Yes.
And, those are inspirational types. But often those are the same ones that you might see that have perhaps just a touch more ego than I would prefer.
Yes.
Personally. And I do think being a high S puts the client first.
It does. And a high C. So, my personality scale is CSID.
Yes.
And they're all high. but the C and the S are the highest. And that's why I work really well with the clients that most agents really don't like to work with, and that's engineers and lawyers and CPAs, because they're so detailed and they drive most agents nuts. For me, those are my people, and I loved it. I'm like, bring it on. I've got all the details. I've got all the answers to all the questions that you haven't even thought of yet, but I've got it all. And that's just my personality. And I wasn't a good fit for everybody. And that's why I would tell them with the option opener, I would say, you're going to tell me if I'm a good fit for you, and I'm going to tell you if you're a good fit for me at the end of the time together. And there is no one right or wrong answer. So you just follow whatever you want. And so here's the other thing, is that I am different from a lot of real estate agents. And I looked at that from a negative part for a long time. What I found is, through a lot of self-discovery, a lot of coaching, is that it's a superpower, because I've got the skills that a lot of agents don't have. I also can interpret that information and disseminate it to agents in a way that they can digest it and help their business grow. So I kind of liken it to, I'm an interpreter for the person who speaks English and the person who speaks French, and I speak both languages, and I can get them talking very quickly together and efficiently. That's what I do, is I take the things that real estate agents don't like doing and aren't good at, most of them, systems, finances, models, that kind of thing, and take it and distill it into something that they will do, and turns it into a predictable, successful business. And I feel that that's a massive superpower, and it's a huge blessing for me as well as for other agents. And it took me a long time to come to grips with that, because I felt like I was just different from everybody else, and it was a negative thing, and it isn't. It's actually a positive thing. And it took me 20 years to figure that out. But once I did, I was like, yeah, let's go. There's so many things that I could do, so many people that I could help with this stuff that they don't like doing. I do like doing it, so let me help you do it better. And let me show you how to do it. And by the way, I'm going to guide, lead, and protect you through this. And that means everything. So kind of come in full circle, it gives them the confidence that they don't have yet. And then showing them that I believe in them and I'm their biggest cheerleader as they're going through this path and breaking through that next ceiling.
I know you've watched some of these, so you've seen that I like to ask, what kind of music do you listen to?
If you ask my kids or my family, Dad only puts on 80s music. I grew up in the 80s. I love 80s music. That's my jam. I like a lot of different music. I love jazz. I love classical. I love pop. I love rock. Van Halen is one of my favorite bands.
Okay.
Always has been. I also love Journey. 80s music is my jam, and I can do 90s. Most of today's music I don't jive with. I'm not a big country fan, and I'm not a big rap fan. Those are the two things that I just can't quite. I respect them. It's just not my cup of tea. So, and that's perfectly fine. There's enough other people that like that music, and I respect that. And I can see why people like that, and I see the talent that is involved there. It just doesn't resonate with me musically. But I played in a band from 5th grade all the way through college and after college.
What is drum?
I played trumpet, and then I was drum major.
Okay.
So I played all kinds of music, from classical to like pep band music that you hear on football, for football and basketball. Yeah. That was my thing. To jazz, and we would play we played lots of concerts where people would come, and we do big band music, swing music. I played a lot of that.
I love that kind of music.
So I also like that, but I can appreciate a good classical piece. I can appreciate jazz. I love jazz because it doesn't come naturally to me. And it's one of those things where it's more free-flowing. And I have a really hard time with that because I'm very structured, and jazz is not structured.
It's the opposite.
It's the exact opposite. So I struggled playing that the most. I also liked it because it got me out of my comfort zone, kind of like we were talking about earlier, and forced me to do something that I wasn't good at and that I wasn't necessarily naturally drawn to.
Yeah.
And And I think that's cool. So I like a ton of different music. But if you said, Steve, there's one station that you can listen to, I mean, like Sirius XM, 80s on 8, all day, every day. I will never get tired of it.
What about podcasts? What are you listening to?
Podcasts. So one of the things that I listen to is The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Jason Abrams. I love that because it focuses on systems and models every single episode, which is my jam, as you know. I also like Everything Life in Real Estate. Dana Gentry and Lennon McKissick, that's their podcast. They interview a lot of agents and so forth. I love your podcast. You got lots of, I love how you have different guests on and talk about different topics. So that's really cool. I also listen to a coaching podcast, which teaches me how to be a better coach and so forth. I just listened to that on the way here. And then I also listened to Real Producers podcast with Remington Ramsey.
Yeah.
And I know he's on a bit of a break right now before he starts back up in the spring. So
he was my very first guest.
Oh, was he? He's a great guest to have.
He was.
Easy to talk to.
Yes.
And always has something to talk about. So I love it. Kind of the theme as I think back is I love listening to people interview subject matter experts that resonate with what I do and how I do it. And because I always feel like you can learn something from somebody, even if it's their first day in the business, there's something you can learn from them. Because everybody has a history, everybody has a past, everybody has a superpower, everybody has something that they do better than you do. And I think it's fascinating just listening to people and listening to their stories. And so many people have so many amazing challenges that they've overcome, and it becomes inspirational. And that helps me be more inspirational to my coaching clients.
Well, I'll tell you something. A lot of people that listen to this are going to learn a lot from you. And so thank you so much for sitting down with me, Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me to be here. This is fun.